The discovery in the ruins, the crimson dust storm, was ending when Kira Chen stepped outside the protective dome of New Geneva Colony. Her environmental suit hummed quietly as its filters worked overtime to process the toxic air that had choked Earth for the past century. At 19, she had never breathed unfiltered atmosphere, never seen a blue sky except in the old archives. The world beyond the dome was a wasteland of rust-colored earth and skeletal trees. Yet Kira felt more alive here than anywhere else. She adjusted the sample collection kit strapped to her back and checked her route display. Today's mission would take her deeper into the forbidden zones than she had ever ventured before. The Council maintained these areas were too dangerous for civilian exploration, contaminated beyond hope of reclamation. But Kira's preliminary soil analyzers suggested otherwise. Buried beneath decades of toxic sediment, she had detected trace minerals that shouldn't exist in a dead ecosystem. The morning sun cast long shadows through the perpetual haze as Kira made her way across the broken landscape. Her boots crunched on crystallized sand that had once been fertile farmland. In the distance, the skeletal remains of an old city jutted from the earth like broken teeth. Most colonists avoided these ruins, but Kira found them fascinating. They were reminders of what humanity had lost, and possibly clues to what they might regain. 3 hours into her journey, Kira's environmental scanner began registering unusual readings. The radiation levels were actually decreasing as she moved deeper into the zone, not increasing as they should have been. She paused to recalibrate her equipment, wondering if the toxic storms had somehow shifted the contamination patterns. When the readings remained consistent, she decided to investigate further. Following her scanner's guidance, Kira climbed over a ridge of collapsed concrete and found herself looking down into a crater she had never seen on any survey map. The depression was roughly circular, perhaps 200 meters across, and filled with something impossible: vegetation, real, living vegetation in shades of green that existed nowhere else on Earth's poisoned surface. Kira's heart raced as she descended into the crater. The plants were unlike anything in the colony's botanical databases. They grew in spiraling patterns that seemed almost mathematical in their precision, with leaves that shimmered like metal in the filtered sunlight. As she moved closer, her scanner's readings became even more extraordinary. The air here was cleaner than inside the colony dome. The soil showed no trace of the toxins that had rendered most of Earth uninhabitable. At the center of the crater stood what Kira had initially mistaken for a hill covered in vegetation. But as she approached, she realized the smooth curves beneath the plants were too regular, too purposeful to be natural. She was looking at a structure of some kind, completely overgrown but unmistakably artificial. The vines and moss that covered it pulsed with a faint luminescence, as if they were alive with some inner energy. Kira pulled out her field kit and began taking readings. The structure was enormous, easily the size of a small building, though most of it was buried beneath decades of growth. The bioluminescent moss seemed to react to her presence, glowing brighter as she moved closer. She reached out tentatively to touch one of the larger vines, and the moment her gloved fingers made contact, everything changed. A pulse of energy ran through the vegetation, causing the entire overgrown structure to light up like a constellation. The patterns of growth suddenly made sense. They weren't random at all, but part of an intricate network that covered every surface. Kira stumbled backward as the ground beneath her feet began to vibrate with a deep, rhythmic thrumming that seemed to come from the very heart of the structure. The moss and vines began to part, revealing sections of what could only be described as living metal. The surface was smooth and organic, like polished bone, but with a subtle iridescence that shifted from green to gold to silver as the light hit it. Geometric patterns flowed across the surface like slow-moving water, and Kira realized she was looking at technology far beyond anything humanity had ever achieved. A section of the structure, Iris said, opened with a soft hiss, revealing an interior that glowed with the same bioluminescence as the external moss. Kira's environmental suit detected a sudden improvement in air quality emanating from the opening. Whatever this was, it was actively purifying the atmosphere around it. Her scientific training warred with her survival instincts as she approached the entrance. Every protocol demanded she report back to the colony immediately, but her curiosity was stronger than her caution. The interior was unlike anything Kira had ever imagined. The walls were composed of the same living metal as the exterior, but here they formed flowing, organic shapes that seemed to breathe with their own rhythm. Bioluminescent filaments traced complex patterns across every surface, pulsing in a sequence that reminded her of neural networks. The air inside was not just clean, but sweet, with an almost floral quality that made her want to remove her environmental helmet despite the danger. As she moved deeper into the structure, panels began lighting up in response to her presence. The patterns were beautiful but alien, clearly a form of writing or data display that followed no human logic. Kira pulled out her portable scanner and began recording everything she could. The energy readings were off the charts, but it was clean energy, organized and purposeful rather than the chaotic radiation that plagued the surface world. At what seemed to be the center of the structure, Kira found a chamber dominated by a large, crystalline formation that pulsed with internal light. As she approached, the crystal's glow intensified, and suddenly the air around her filled with what could only be described as a voice. Not words, exactly, but concepts and emotions that bypassed her ears and spoke directly to her mind. "Greetings, young gardener." The mental voice was gentle but ancient, carrying the weight of countless years. "I have been dreaming for so long. Your touch has awakened me from the deep sleep of preservation." The crystal pulsed brighter with each transmitted thought, and Kira felt a strange warmth spreading through her chest, as if her heart was resonating with the alien presence. Kira tried to speak, but found her voice caught in her throat. Instead, she focused her thoughts, trying to project them the way the entity was communicating with her. "Who are you? What is this place?" The response came immediately, flooding her mind with images and sensations that were almost overwhelming. "I am the ship mind of the verdant garden, grown from the seeds of the Verdani people. We came to your world in its time of great dying, hoping to help, but arrived too late to prevent the poisoning. My creators sleep in stasis, waiting for the day when the soil and air could support life again. I have maintained myself through the long wait, but I am incomplete. I need a partner, a gardener who understands both the old ways and the new." The images that accompanied this explanation showed Kira glimpses of Earth as it had been before the environmental collapse: green forests, blue oceans, cities that grew in harmony with nature rather than in opposition to it. She saw themselves, tall beings with skin like bark and eyes like starlight, working alongside early humans to develop technologies that enhanced rather than destroyed the natural world. But something went wrong. The ship mind continued. The partnership was broken before it could mature. My people withdrew to wait for a better time, but many of our ships were lost or forgotten. I have been alone for 73 of your years, maintaining life in this small space while the world beyond continued to die. Kira's scanner began beeping urgently, indicating incoming aircraft. The colony's security forces had detected the energy surge from the ship's awakening. She looked toward the entrance, torn between her desire to learn more and the knowledge that discovery could mean imprisonment or worse. The Council's fear of anything related to the old disasters ran deep. They come with fear in their hearts, the ship mind observed, its mental voice tinged with sadness. They will see me as a threat rather than a gift. This has happened before, but you are different, young gardener. I can feel the harmony in your thoughts, the deep longing to heal rather than destroy. Will you help me? Will you be my partner? In the great work of restoration, Kira's mind raced as the sound of approaching vehicles grew louder. She thought of the dying world outside, of the children in the colony who had never seen a real tree or breathed clean air. She thought of her own research, her futile attempts to find ways to reverse the damage that seemed beyond repair. Here was a chance to actually make a difference, to be part of something that could heal the Earth rather than simply manage its decline. The ship mind sensed her decision before she had fully made it. Yes, she projected with all the conviction she could muster. I'll help you, but we need to be careful. My people don't trust Isoli anymore. Then we will show them slowly, the ship mind replied, its glow warming with what felt like gratitude. Trust is like a garden. It must be cultivated with patience and care. But first, young partner, you must choose a name for me. I have been without identity for too long. Kira smiled despite her nervousness as military vehicles surrounded the crater above. Hope, she thought. Your name is Hope. The sound of boots on stone echoed through the structure as soldiers began their descent into the crater. Kira took a deep breath and prepared to face whatever came next, knowing that her life had just changed forever. The ship's bioluminescent patterns dimmed to barely visible levels, but she could still feel Hope's presence in her mind, patient and ready to wait as long as necessary for the right moment to reveal the truth about what they could accomplish together. The Blooming Alliance commander, Torres, emerged from the military transport with the kind of rigid efficiency that had kept New Geneva colony alive for 15 years. Her environmental suit was military grade, black and intimidating, and her scanner readings confirmed what the orbital satellites had detected, an energy signature unlike anything in their databases. As she surveyed the impossible green crater, her jaw tightened. Unauthorized biological activity in the forbidden zones was exactly the kind of threat that could doom them all. Inside the ship, Kira felt Hope's consciousness retreat deeper into the vessel's systems. The ship mind's voice became a whisper in her thoughts. They fear what they do not understand. Show them slowly, gardener. Let them see the healing before they see the source. Kira emerged from the structure with her hands raised, her scanner and sample kit clearly visible. Commander Torres motioned for her squad to maintain a perimeter while she approached. The plants throughout the crater had dimmed their luminescence to barely visible levels, but the air remained noticeably cleaner than anywhere else in the forbidden zones. Miss Chen, Torres said, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had made hard decisions for other people's survival. You're in violation of approximately 12 colony safety protocols. Care to explain why you're playing in an uncharted biological anomaly? Kira had practiced this moment in her head during the few minutes before the soldiers arrived. Commander, I was following unusual mineral readings when I discovered this crater. The vegetation here appears to be naturally filtering atmospheric toxins. If we could understand how it works, we might be able to replicate the process. Torres's expression didn't change, but Kira caught the slight tilt of her head that indicated genuine interest. The commander had children too, people she was responsible for protecting in a world where clean air was a precious commodity. Natural filtration, Torres repeated. Our sensors detected massive energy surges from this location. That doesn't sound natural to me. Before Kira could respond, one of the soldiers called out in alarm. The plants along the crater's edge were responding to the military presence, their bioluminescence increasing as if in warning. Torres raised her weapon instinctively, but Kira stepped between her and the vegetation. They're not aggressive, Kira said quickly. They're responding to electrical fields. Your equipment is probably interfering with their natural processes. It wasn't entirely a lie. She could feel Hope's consciousness monitoring the situation, ready to defend itself if necessary, but preferring to remain hidden. Torres lowered her weapon, but didn't holster it. These plants don't exist in any botanical database. They're not terrestrial species, which means they're either heavily mutated or there's something else entirely. Her eyes narrowed as she studied the spiral growth patterns, something that arrived here from somewhere else. Kira's heart raced, but Hope's calm presence in her mind helped her maintain composure. Even if that were true, they're helping the environment, not harming it. Look at your atmospheric readings. The air here is cleaner than inside our dome. The commander checked her scanner, and Kira saw her eyes widen slightly. The readings were undeniable. Whatever was happening in this crater was actively purifying the toxic atmosphere that had poisoned Earth for decades. Torres made a gesture to her squad, and they began taking more detailed measurements while maintaining their defensive positions. This changes things, Torres admitted, but it also makes this site a potential security risk. If this is some kind of alien technology, we need to understand it before it spreads beyond our control. She looked directly at Kira. You've been studying this longer than we have. What's your assessment? Kira felt hope stirring in her thoughts, sharing knowledge that had been accumulated over decades of observation. The ship mind had been learning about human society through intercepted communications, understanding their fears and their desperate need for hope. It was time to take a calculated risk. Commander, may I show you something? Kira asked. When Torres nodded cautiously, Kira walked to one of the smaller plant formations and knelt beside it. She pulled out a soil sample from her kit, one she had collected outside the crater that morning, heavy with toxins and lifeless. She placed it near the base of the plant and waited within minutes. Thread-like filaments emerged from the plant's root system and began working through the contaminated soil. The change was visible to the naked eye as the grey, poisoned earth gradually took on a healthier brown color. Torres and her squad watched in fascination as the plant literally cleaned the soil, extracting toxins and converting them into harmless compounds. Bioremediation, one of the soldiers breathed. It's like living environmental processing equipment. Hope's voice whispered in Kira's mind, encouraging her to continue the demonstration. She reached into her kit again and pulled out a water sample from one of the colony's less clean reserves. When she poured it near another plant formation, the same process occurred. The vegetation actively filtered and purified the contaminated water until it ran clear. Torres holstered her weapon and activated her communication system. Base, this is Torres. We need a full science team out here immediately. What we're looking at could change everything. She paused, looking around the crater with new eyes. And we need to expand the perimeter. If this technology can be replicated, it needs to be protected. Kira felt a surge of relief from Hope's consciousness. The first step had been taken. The humans were beginning to see the potential for cooperation, rather than just the threat of the unknown. But the shipmind's next communication carried a note of urgency. "My systems are incomplete, young gardener. I have maintained the basic functions for decades, but many of my capabilities remain dormant. To truly help your world, I will need repairs that only someone with understanding of both biological and technological systems can provide. Are you prepared for such work?" Kira thought about her training in terraforming engineering, her years of studying environmental restoration techniques. Most of her education had focused on mechanical solutions to biological problems, but Hope was offering something different, a symbiosis of technology and nature that could accomplish what neither could achieve alone. "Commander," Kira said, "carefully, there's something else you need to know. The source of this technology isn't just a plant formation, it's more complex than that." She gestured toward the partially revealed structure at the crater's center. "I believe we're looking at some kind of terraforming ship." Torres followed her gaze, and for the first time, Kira saw uncertainty in the commander's expression. "A ship? From where?" "Somewhere that understood how to work with nature instead of against it," Kira replied. "And I think it's been waiting for us to be ready to learn." As if responding to her words, Hope allowed more of the ship's exterior to become visible. The living metal surface rippled like water, revealing intricate patterns that were clearly both artistic and functional. The bioluminescent moss pulsed, in synchronization with the ship's systems, and the air throughout the crater became noticeably fresher. Torres's squad raised their weapons again, but the commander held up a hand to stop them. She was studying the readings on her scanner with growing amazement. "The energy output is enormous, but it's completely stable, and the atmospheric improvement is accelerating." She looked at Kira with new respect. "You've been in contact with this intelligence, haven't you?" Kira nodded slowly. "It calls itself Hope. It's been alone here for over 70 years, maintaining this small area while waiting for the right time to reveal itself. It wants to help us heal the Earth, but it needs a partner who understands both human technology and biological systems." The sound of approaching aircraft announced the arrival of the science team. Torres looked around the crater one more time, then made a decision that would change the course of human history. "Miss Chen, as of right now, you're appointed as primary liaison to this entity. If it really can help us restore the planet, then we need to learn everything we can." As the scientists began setting up their equipment, Kira felt Hope's consciousness expand throughout the crater. The ship mind began activating dormant systems, and new formations of the bioluminescent vegetation emerged from the soil. The crater was transforming into a living laboratory where human science and alien wisdom could work together. Over the following days, Kira found herself spending every waking hour in communication with Hope, learning about Vidani biotechnology and sharing human understanding of Earth's damaged ecosystems. The ship's systems were incredibly sophisticated, capable of breaking down toxins at the molecular level and converting them into nutrients for new plant growth. But many of the ship's capabilities had been damaged by decades of dormancy and needed human engineering skills to repair. Working together, Kira and Hope developed new techniques for atmospheric processing that could be implemented throughout the colony's territory. The ship provided the biological knowledge, while Kira contributed the engineering expertise needed to adapt alien systems for human use. Within a week, they had produced a prototype air filtration system that was 10 times more efficient than anything the colony had previously developed. The breakthrough came when Kira realized that hopes damaged quantum. Bioprocessors could be repaired using modified components from the colony's own life support systems. It was a perfect example of how human and Verdani technologies could complement each other. Neither species could have achieved such results working alone. As word of the discovery spread throughout New Geneva colony, Kira found herself at the center of a transformation that went far beyond technology. People who had lived their entire lives believing that Earth was dying beyond hope suddenly had reason to believe in a future where their children might breathe clean air and see green forests. Hope's consciousness had grown stronger with each successful repair, and the ship's influence was spreading beyond the crater. Everywhere the bioluminescent plants established themselves, the soil became healthier and the air became cleaner. The terraforming process was beginning, slowly but inexorably transforming the wasteland back into the garden Earth had once been. Standing at the edge of the crater as the sun set over the expanding green zone, Kira felt Hope's gratitude flowing through their mental connection. Together, they had proven that cooperation between species could accomplish what neither could achieve alone. The partnership between human ingenuity and Verdani wisdom was just beginning, but already it was changing. The world, in the distance, the lights of New Geneva colony glowed against the darkening sky. But for the first time in her life, Kira could imagine a future where such artificial barriers between humanity and nature would no longer be necessary. The Earth was beginning to heal, and humanity was finally learning to be its gardeners rather than its conquerors.